ideally, being that it's Lag BaOmer, the idea that Rav Shimon Bar Yochai is such a unbelievable anomaly. I just want to share an idea, but some of you may not have contemplated yet. But I think it's important to put this into perspective. A lot of us were going out and, the outdoor minions here in Eretz Yisrael, so it's a big thrill. But there's an idea that really hit me that, we are complaining about being in bidud, as they call it here in Israel, in isolation or whatever it's called, in quarantine. And being in quarantine is a very difficult thing. And I think that what makes Lag BaOmer so special is that it's celebrating the life and the accomplishment of Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, who spent 13 years in quarantine. But it wasn't quarantine like we have, where we have running water and electricity and food and that. No, it was the ultimate in hiding, in despair, where he totally put his trust in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And he was sitting in the Maira with his son. At least he had a son with him. And they sat and they learned Torah all day long, except for when it was time to daven. And the way they did that is that they would actually, because davening was so choshev, they would actually get dressed to stand up to daven. While they were learning, they figured they could learn laying down. And they laid themselves down and they covered themselves in sand in order to be modest. When it came time to daven, they would get out and get dressed. Of course, they'd wash their hands because they had a spring that HaKadosh Baruch Hu had provided for them right nearby. And their food was that carob tree. Now, I'm not sure how many of you enjoy boxer. On Tu B'Shvat, we enjoy it. It's a little bit, sometimes you have these carob treats. Okay, it's good. But 24/7 for 13 years to have carobs. It's, so when we think about us being in quarantine relative to what Rav Shimon Bar Yochai had to experience, it's supposed to give us a little perspective. And why am I mentioning that? Oh, it's Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, what does it have to do with me? Well, it does have to do with you. Because on Lag BaOmer, Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, he says that he could be matzilas kol ha'olam min hadin. He could save everybody from judgment, which is a huge claim that any tzaddik, in the times of the Gemara, we don't see that. But he said he could, right? And it's something that, how does he have the audacity to say that he could save everybody from the din, from judgment? How could he be saved from judgment? When you think about it, that Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, he had given of his life to mamish, experience the ultimate sacrifice, running away to the unknown. And this is something that when we think about it relative to what we do, and we're dying to get out. Could you imagine what Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, how much so he would love to know that it was okay for him to leave? It wasn't until Eliyahu Navi, Zechor Latov, came to him and says, who's going to tell Bar Yochai that the Roman ruler that wanted to kill him is dead and that it's safe for him to come out? Only then did Rav Shimon Bar Yochai know that he could leave. And his whole perspective was totally changed in the whole life. What's important and what's not important. What you need to survive and what you don't need to survive. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has such mercy on us that the quarantine that we have, I'm not saying it's not easy, we experience it here, but the quarantine that we have pales in comparison. So Baruch Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu in his Berov Racham Berov Chasadav has given us a relatively easier way of dealing with quarantine, objectively for sure. And therefore we have to think, Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, he's reaching out to all the generations and say, I can be pater the whole world from the beginning of time to the end of time from judgment. So how can I connect to him? How could I merit Rav Shimon Bar Yochai coming on my defense? Who could claim that Rosh Bar Yochai is going to come to his defense and take care of him and say, no problem. It's only if we try to experience and understand the Torah that he has taught. And because they say that every time you say the Torah of somebody, it says, Bala Memra Omed, the person who's you're quoting, comes to listen and hear how you're understanding his words. And they say that the Maori Naim explains how by learning the Torah of somebody, of a big tzaddik who's no longer in this world, is maybe even greater than going to prostrate yourself on their grave in daven. So learning the Torah is something very, very powerful. The Torah words, the words of Torah has the ability to heal and to set a person straight and get them into the right way. So getting to the Hakdama here, he says like this, Rav Shimon, Shimon escaped and ran away to the desert of Lud. These ganes bechad marta v'hu Rav Elazar berei, and he hid in this cave with himself and his son Rav Elazar. Misrachesh nisa, and a miracle happened. Napek lahon chad charov, bechad mayna demaya. And when they went into the cave, they had the nace of Kosh Baruch Hu provided for them a carob tree and the spring, as we mentioned before. And they ate from the carobs and they drank from the water. Navi came to them every single day. Trey Zimnan, 2 times a day. And he would learn with them and teach them. And nobody else knew what was going on there except for them. And he says that V'da Iskri Tikuney Zohar. And this book that we're learning from now is known as a Tikuney Zohar, because this is the 70 facets of the Torah that Rav Shimon Bar Yochai taught. And these 70 facets are very, very deep. And he says, he just opens up that the Zohar starts with this and says, Hamaskilim Yasiru Kizoharakia. And the intellectual ones, the people with deep understanding, they will shine like the shine of the heavens. And who are the maskilin? The maskilin is Rav Shimon and his whole entourage, his whole group, all his talmidim. And that's how when they sat and learned this Torah, it seems to be, we're not sure if it's happened after he came out of the Mira or before he came out of the Mira, but either which way, it seems it was afterwards, because the way that they expressed what happened is that after he came out of the Mira, he knew all these deep secrets. And therefore, the whole Zohar was written. I mean, he had some Talmidim beforehand, but when the shine that came with the Torah that they learned really only happened after they came out of the Mira. And they learned the Torah with that mysterious nefesh. Whereas he had such Siyat D'Shmaya beforehand, it could be that Eliyahu Navi came to him beforehand, but we don't see the intense connection to the deep depths of Torah that were inaccessible to anybody else. It was only because him and his son had such mysterious nefesh that they were Zohar to have such a gilui, such a revelation. So we have to also put into perspective, we'd all love to know the secrets of Torah. We all want to know Kabbalah. Everybody wants to build a golem. Everybody wants, some people say, I am a golem, but either which way you want to put it in perspective, and you want to do such amazing things, because we all want to know the secret beauty of Torah. We want to be connected on the deepest levels to the deepest ideas that in order to connect Hashem in the deepest way. So in order to do that, you have to be Moser Nefesh. Right? To the degree a person makes the attempt and divests themselves of the pursuit of luxury and the worldly, that will be the degree to which they're able to relate to the spiritual. Again, we see that Rav Yehuda Nasi, he had also Gashmias, but we don't see Rabbi Yehuda Nasi having that deep connection to Ruchnias. I mean, with Torah, I mean, let's say the Sisrei Torah. In order to understand Sisrei Torah, the only way is with extreme Mesiras Nefesh. And I don't know how many, I don't know the crazy amounts of Mikubalim that exist in the world, but the ones that I've been Zohar to know, I've seen that they're, for the most part, very divested from luxuries. And I think that's something to keep in mind here also. So they were given, Rav Shimon Bar Yochai and his Talmidim were given the permission. You see, have Reshus Lahon Elio, and also Elio and Navi was with them, and many other neshamas from different generations came to interact with their learning the secrets of Torah, and even malachim would come. The Ilas al Kol Yav Reshul Chol Shaman the Kadishan, and they also had permission to utilize the Shemus of Hashem and to explain and understand the distinction between each and every name of Hashem that Hashem shares with us. Sometimes he's called Yud Kei Vav Kei. Sometimes he's called Elokim. Sometimes he's called Aleph Daled Yud. There's many different ways that Hashem interacts with our world, and these interactions are meant for us to have an idea of why and how and what way Hashem wants to relate to us. And there's distinctions because we have to know that there's differences. There's another idea here also, though. He says that the idea of the 10 spheros are revealed here. Now, what is the idea of the 10 spheros? The idea of the 10 spheros is something that is very hard to explain in a simple way, but again, I wish I could say I understood it with any clarity. But a vague idea, a way of understanding what it accomplishes, is we look at HaKadosh Baruch Hu as what they call the Or Ein Sof. The Or Ein Sof, the infinite light. Now, infinite means it's all over the place, and it's also infinitely bright. So if anybody were to try to behold that infinite light, it would blind a person and destroy a person. So the only way to deal with that is Kaviyachol, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The parable is usually given that Hashem put okay, we're back recording, I guess. Okay, so the idea, though, of the prism is a way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, like if you take a beam of light and you shine it on this prism, it's called, I think, refracting. The light comes out, but it comes out instead of a bright white light, it comes out in different colors. And of course, those are the red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet, I think it's called. And those are the vast array of colors that comes out of that light. So hidden in the light is everything, all the different colors, a way of visualizing everything, but also it's a different way that we're able to relate to what's going on there. So we're going to look at the spheros as different manifestations of a HaKadosh Baruch Hu's desire to relate to us. Just like that light would be blinding and destructive had it not been, I don't want to use the term filtered, but refracted in a way that we could see something, we could observe something in that light. The same way that all of Hashem's names show a distinction and a difference of the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to relate to us, so too the spheros also are different ways. We actually give attributes and names to these spheros, even though in the Sefer Yetzirah it says they're Esa spheres Belima. The spheres themselves don't have anything of their own, and we'll have to, I guess, wait till we start learning the Sefer Yetzirah to get into that. But either which way, at this point in time, we need to know that the Sefer Yetzirah, that the spheres themselves are mere ways of giving us the ability to connect. So if we look at, right now during Spheros Omer, we have this ability to understand the concepts of spheros because we relate to the bottom 7 spheros, which are Chesed, Gvur, Tiferes, Netzach, Hod, Yisod, and Malchus. Those are the bottom 7 spheros. And there's 3 more spheros. Basically, it depends on many different factors. Either they're Keser, Chachma, and Bina, or they're Chachma, Bina, and Das. And we're not going to get into when one way it's looked upon this way, but the upper 3 are usually correspond to the head. And the head and what's inside the head. Okay? And that's the intellect, Chachma, Bina, and Das are the easiest way to understand it. Chachma is wisdom, Bina is understanding and comprehension, and Das is to bring it into fruition, is connecting vis-a-vis the intellect. All right? Now, but it's separate from the lower 7 spheres to a certain degree. It's a different system. It has a microsystem inside of it. And it's the hashkacha that we're talking about during the Spheres Omer, and that the Spheres Omer is, we mentioned each week represents one of those spheros, and we call them by the midos. In other words, the first week is the week of Chesed. And within Chesed, you have the week of Chesed, you have Chachma, Bina, Das, Chesed, Gvur, Tiferes, Netzach, Hod, Yisod, and Malchus of the week of Chesed. And Gvur has Chesed, Gvur, Tiferes, Netzach, Hod, Yisod, and Malchus of Gvur. And each week, so on and so forth, has a bit of each of them. Now, when you go into when you get involved in the spheres in general, so you see that the spheres relate to the physical world, just like there's 7 colors that came out of the refracting of the light. So too, the lower 7 spheros kind of are ways of manifesting that which is going on in the upper 3 spheres. All right, we're not going to get much deeper into that, but what happens during Spheres Omer is those 7 spheres that we're focusing on really are building ourselves up in our realm in order to enter the realm of the head. And that happens on Shavuos. So everything that we're doing in this weeks of Spheres Omer is to build us up so we can enter and connect to the on Yom Tov Shavuos, this idea of the muchin, the intellectual spheros, as it were, that are inside the head. And that happens on the night of the entire day of Shavuos, at the night of Shavuos, in the morning of Shavuos. This is the time when these things happen. And this is what we hope to accomplish during the Spheres Omer, is our counting and our building ourselves up. How do we build ourselves up? So it seems to be very strange. You know, I remember counting Spheres Omer. Okay, and now what? What is the rest of the day? So there are many mikubalim, such as the Baal Masak Mitvash, of Daniel Frisch. He was the next level tzaddik, and he also, it's amazing, he was handicapped in a major way, and maybe that's why he was Zohar to connect so deeply to Torah, because he was divested of the luxuries in the material world. But either which way, he basically has a sefer where each day of the Sphira, okay, first day is Chesed Sheva Chesed. So I focus on doing Chesed in the Chesed way, and then Gvura of Chesed, and sometimes so I have to go when I don't feel like it, and I got to be misgaber and do Chesed because I got to muster up that strength to do the Chesed. And each one of the days has a different thing. And of course, on Lag BaOmer is Hod Shebahod, the splendor of all splendors, the deepest of the deep, Mamish Givaldik. It's an intense time to be able to reach out far away from you and to try to help and relate. That's what Rav Shimon Bar Yochai does. That's why he's able to, that he says that Ma Kadosh Baruch Hu L'Kol Af Rav Shimon Lakol. Just like a Kodesh Baruch Hu was for everybody, even Rav Shimon Bar Yochai can help everybody, because that's what he wanted. He wanted to shine that light to the farthest recesses of the universe in order to bring up the sparks that lay dormant inside each and every one of us. And so therefore, by counting Sfiras Omer, which seems to be such a small little maisa, just make a bracha and say, Hayom so-and-so, I've done a tremendous mitzvah. And even the tefillah that we say, the taras nafshenu ruchenu nishvasenu, by counting Sfiras Omer, it cleanses us and purifies all the levels of our neshama, and Ali Dei Zayush B'Shefa Rab Michol Alomas, and because of that, it creates a tremendous shefa from all the worlds. And it's such a strange thing. How does that counting do anything for us? So just a parable, I think I mentioned the day before, how a lot of people, when they're looking forward to something, they count down. Oh, 49 days left. And basically all the days that are gone are thrown out. You take it off the calendar and you throw it away. But with us, the Sfiras Omer, I'm counting a day because I'm trying to build myself up. I'm creating that system. I'm creating the system of 7 times 7 of this different spheres in order to get ready to be reconnected, to have, let's say, the head put on the rest of the body, and now it's going to function. And that's really part of what is so important about Sfiras Omer. And the way that you do it is by just making that proclamation that my time and my days matter, that what I do with my life, it's important. And this is something that if you don't have that ability to count, one of my dear friends, Rav Moshe Shapov, sent me from the Kozhnitz and Magid. He says that Usfartim lechem mimachros haShabbos ad mimachros haShabbos tiskru chamishim yom, until the last of the days you can count. So that means even if a person wakes up on day 49 and says, "Oh, Ribono Shel Olam, I haven't counted at all. Maybe I don't count." But if he musters up the strength and he says, "Ay, Ribono Shel Olam, hayom tisha b'boim yom shem sheva shavos sheva yomim lo'imer," that proclamation gives his neshama a certain ability to connect to its essence. And that's why we're saying that the Zohar here was saying that Tikuney Zohar starts off talking about this famous pasuk that the great intellectual minds will shine like the shining stars in the heavens. Why that? Because the famous idea that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu promised Abraham that your descendants are going to be like the stars of the heavens, it's a very strange thing. What benefit do we have from the stars of the heavens? You know, those little like things going twinkle, twinkle that we could sing about. What does that mean to me? If that's what Klal Yisrael is going to be like, irrelevant. Why is that such a bracha? But if you take it a step further and you realize, wait a second, why do these things seem so small to me and seem so meaningless? It's only because I'm so far away. And I don't realize that how great these stars are. That if I'm able to go close and see the greatness of all these celestial bodies, I realize they're enormous. It could be larger than the size of the sun. Ribono Shel Olam. But that's only when they're far away. So each and every one of us sometimes are very far away from who we are. We're very far away from the greatness of our own neshama. And therefore we never see what our potential is, what our power is, and what our abilities are. The potential that we have is just lo yeuman. It's unbelievable. So how do we connect to stars which are millions of light years away? It seems to be impossible. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells us, you know what? Usfartim lachem. Count for yourself. Do a little action. And recognize your neshama. That your neshama is really a spark of me, of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that is put inside of us. As if God is saying, I put inside of you for myself. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, each and every one of our souls is a spark of God. So if I recognize that and say, wait a second, God is greater than all the stars in the heavens and the earth. His light is infinite and it will blind us and destroy us. But yet he decided to put some of that inside of me and invest inside of me. Whoa, I definitely could be that koach. I could be like the stars of the heavens also. So if I'm able to say I matter and I realize that because Hashem has given me life and granted me ability to live in this world, so therefore I know for sure that Akash Baruch Hu wants me in this world. And therefore I need to get in touch with that and get close to that. And by counting the days, and I realize that my time matters. And some people say that each day gets exponentially larger than the day before. Day 33 is not only day 30, it's not only 33 days. We say Hayom Shloshim Yom La'omed. The 33 days. It's not the 33rd day. It's 33 days. And the 33 days contain 32 days and 31 days and all the days that preceded it. So it's a accumulation of all those days. Each day gets a lot larger. So we have to understand we're trying to magnify and get in touch with that little spark of neshama that seemingly doesn't exist. Neshama can't be measured in physical terms. But once we try to realize Hashem gave us that, entrusted us with that, and the greatest proof is that we're alive, it means Hashem has given us that time to be in this world. Time matters. Days matter. What am I going to do with this time? And if I focus and try, even in the last day, to build myself up, the last day carries all the days before it. So you can get an amazing amount of Kedusha just by counting whichever day it is that you realize that you hadn't counted. Hashem should give us a bracha to always realize that we count and we matter, that Hashem loves us, and we contain within ourselves the Kedusha of HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. And Hashem should help us realize this, and if we all realize this, we'll get closer and closer to the times where Umala Arz Dayas Hashem Kemaim Ilayam Mechasim Bimheri Remenu with Dias Mashiach Tzekina Bimheri Remenu.